everyone. Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for joining. I'm going to do a live today talking about, well, I'm not going to talk about anything. There's going to be a student on Trae who's going to talk about his experience as a student in K-12 schools. So we're going to get started around 6. I'm just waiting for him to join. Hi, Mr. Hunt. Thanks for joining. Today's live is going to be about Trayvon's story as a K-12 student in his experience. I'm just waiting for him to join. Hi, Brianna. Hi, Jerome. Yeah, I'm just waiting on Trayvon. Hi, Jonathan. I'm waiting on Trayvon to join. He's going to talk about his K-12 experience. Hi, Janelle. So hopefully... Oh, thank you. I got on workout clothes. Look, I've tried to hurry up and take a shower before this live session, and it wasn't enough time. So I was like, let me not play. So I need to get my life after this is over. But thank you. It doesn't make any critiques of them unwelcome. So I welcome any and all opinions, points of views, questions, challenges to anything that I say, right? I know that I am in a lot of cases an anomaly in terms of what I think and what I believe. At the same time, it doesn't mean it's right. So like I said, I always welcome you guys to ask questions, to tell me, what resonates, what communicates well with you, something that gives you pause, like, I'm not sure. Can you say more? Or I agree for this reason. I think the purpose of having these spaces is to really push each other, right? Like, I don't never really want to expect anybody to change their perspective based on mine and what I have to say, but I do value those who can have a healthy debate. I think oftentimes we are told that if we don't agree or we keep going back and forth, it's an argument, and that's just not the case. Like, I have, been able to break through some of my very toxic ways of thinking and being by having really good debates. And so thank you for saying that, Janelle. But like I said, if anything doesn't resonate, if there's questions like, hey, you said this, I'm worried about that, I'm wondering this, I welcome all of that. So thank you. I just messaged Trayvon. He said he's going to be joining or logging on in just a second. So in the meantime, just to give you a backstory on Trayvon. So Trayvon was one of my students. I taught him 11th grade math, and he was also my advisee. And so what that means is I have a very close connection with him. I had the privilege of not only being his teacher but his advisor, which meant that I had a front row seat to his life, not just his life as a student, but also his life as a young Black man navigating the school systems. And so brilliant young mind. He was the kid that in my class that he would ask me questions that I never knew the answer to. Like, just smart, just his brain, the way he thinks, his critical thinking, he has me down. Like, I've not seen anybody's mind that is wired the way that Trayvon's is, and his whole ability to critically think, critically reflect, push people respectfully. He would give me together oftentimes, like, oh, Miss Crew said this, well, what about that? And I would have to go Google stuff like, what is he talking about? So super brilliant. In my opinion, I just feel like, and I apologize to him on the last live because I felt like I did a disservice to him and didn't help to cultivate the genius that he is and has always been. And so I wanted to give space for him to talk about his story. So I know that he probably wants this to be a part of his story. He is very smart and reflective. He's probably going to talk about this as part of his story, but he's also a father. And he has a newborn. And so when we were going back and forth just about logging on, he's like, the baby girl might crash the lab. And I'm like, that's cool. That's part of your story. So I just ask that you guys bear with him just a little bit so that he can get situated and be able to join us. Here he is.
Hey,
Hi, Sunshine. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good.
I'm so happy to see you. So you was able to get the baby to
Yeah,
not have to
her
go ahead.
mom just got here.
Oh, okay, cool. So I was able to, Trayvon, give a little bit of backstory about you and how I know you. I talked about being your 11th grade math teacher and also your advisor, which meant that I had a front row seat to your experience, not just in schools, but also in life as a young Black male.
Okay.
But I'm going to turn it over to you. This is really about you. I imagine some people will have some questions for you. I'm just going to let you go and let you, however your heart leads you to share. But then I may have some questions in between to have you just kind of go more in depth if that's okay.
Yeah. So my name is Trayvon Wright, 24 years old, lifelong resident in Inglewood. Um, Graduated from Johnson College Prep 2014. Um, well, I'm trying to see what else can I say that's not on the flyer. 15 or more college acceptances, 28 on the ACT. Um, Trying to think of anything else really essential to. Uh, yeah, that's actually I kind of want to leave it open so people can ask questions and inquire. I don't want to just give it all away. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So what you all saw on the flyer is what you all can get until you all have questions, and then I'll be more than ecstatic to give you all more.
Awesome. So Trayvon, talk to us a little bit about how you felt as a Black male student while experiencing your schooling.
So during K through 8. I can't really say I was aware. Well, I was aware, but I wasn't really engaged mentally or well consciously engaged, and the disparities that were there primarily because I didn't have a reason to. For the most part, my K through 8 experience was pretty good. The learning, the educational information I was being taught was pretty up to par, I would say, in hindsight, as compared to what some of my counterparts were receiving. Um, and then, yeah, I was just able to experience a lot of things. I will say when I went to Carl Sandburg, it's a school in Freeport. It's a suburb in well, it's not a suburb, but it's a little town, a little south of Rockford. Um, Definitely was a way. It was almost like a pre-course to high school, and I was only in sixth grade. Like I was able to freely walk around the school, and the school was like the size of Whitney Young, and we talking about strictly for elementary kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Track field, 3 swimming pools, 2 gymnasiums, a football field. It just had all the amenities that you would want every school to have. Um, Teachers specifically engaged. So instead of going to just one teacher for English, you would have this teacher who is specific in this literature, or this teacher who specializes in this grammar, this math teacher specializes in algebra. You wouldn't have a trigonometry teacher trying to teach you statistics and things like that. So it was very intentional with how students were being taught. That was one of the major differences I saw. High school, uh, I mean, I could spend an hour talking about the disparities in high school, so I could just say that um, as a black man in the inner city and some of the most impoverished neighborhoods, I didn't have the best experience. Granted, the school I attended was an up and coming school, so they didn't have all the tools that they needed to, effectively get us where we needed to be. But that's a conversation for another live. But we um, we made it do what we had to do. I think that's what I could say for all black men and all black people, period. trying to make it through the inner city school systems. We make the most of it. A lot of us want to attain higher learning, but we got to take what's given to us and make the most of it.
So a couple things, just for those who are listening, I want to share with Trayvon just a little bit, expand upon this notion of like the school was up and coming. So it was a school that was just opening up, a charter school, and so he was a part of the first graduating class. So he's a founder of the school, and so what he means by like the resources were there for the school, but what he means by like not giving or not having access to everything is like, if Trayvon came in as a ninth grade student and was ready to take calculus, we didn't have the capacity for him to take calculus because at the time it was only ninth graders in the school and only ninth grade teachers, right? So this whole, idea of founding and building a school means that there's limited access to, just
Hmm.
different things, multiple enrichments and like different courses. And so that's what he meant by that. Trayvon, I want you to expound a little bit on what stuck out to me when you talked about your experience in I don't know if it was Freeport, but the school outside of the city, you talked about as a
Yeah,
sixth grader
Freeport.
being able to walk around freely in the building. And so I'm wondering what events, situations, or policies made you feel restricted even as you got to high school. So you're going from sixth grade with that experience, like, hey, I trust you, go walk, do what you need to do, to like going into a space where, and you could tell me, maybe I'm, assuming here, did you feel the same level of freedom? And if not, what sort of things
Mm,
restricted you?
I definitely did not feel the same level of freedom anywhere in any school. Even in the schools I did attend in the city that I did have freedom, it was nothing like that. It was almost, honestly, I could say it was like being in college. I didn't really have to run things by a teacher. I could just come and go as I please. I mean, it was pretty good. What I will say though is I'm trying to think how I want to word it. I will say it did open my eyes to how I was trying to be professional, but I'm gonna be blunt.
Just I was about to
I'm
say,
gonna
come
be
with it.
blunt. It did open my eyes to how white people are given the privilege, and how white people are not forced to have that same school to prison pipeline system that a lot of people of color are forced under. Um, I don't really like to stand in line, and even in elementary school, I had to go through it. Stand in line, hands behind your back, don't talk, raise your hand to talk. You can't talk unless you addressed. Um, things like that. I had to actually go to the bathroom. I get in trouble if I use the bathroom on myself. Like, I don't know, it's crazy. Um, in high school, it's even more crazy because you asking a child who's going through puberty, who's stepping into adulthood to basically be a slave. I don't know. I'm not trying to mince words, and I'm not trying to be overly blunt, but that's just how it is.
That's how you
You
felt.
you forcing us to be a slave is, I mean, we already forced to wear the same thing, so we all have to essentially have the same identity, even though we do have the same identity. We all are individuals who have our own creative thoughts, our own engines. We all don't have the same motor that drives us. So in that respect, it's disrespectful and it's just flat out bogus to take that away from people. And that's what a lot of our schools and a lot of our institutions, not even just schools, but a lot of our institutions, period, do to people. They just take their creative motive away.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was a lot, Trayvon. So
Yeah.
here's the thing. I want to be clear in saying this. This is not a session to bash Johnson College Prep. In
I,
fact,
I'm not even talking specifically about Johnson College Prep. Let me make that clear too. Johnson College
I
Prep,
understand.
this is not a diss. I'm not specifically talking about y'all. I have been to other high schools. I have been to other grammar schools. I have been to other colleges. This is all from years of research and doing my own social experiments and understanding and research.
Yeah, and I don't think you was doing that, Trayvon. I just wanted to be clear because there's a lot of
Oh
people that's
no,
joining this
no,
live that know me and you both,
yeah,
were
no,
at Johnson together. And so
that's
I
fine.
want to also shout Johnson out too, because they have done a lot of work. So what Trayvon is mentioning about like restrictions around bathrooms. So previously at some schools, there was a policy where kids had to ask to go to the bathroom. They had to wait for somebody to come pick them up from class. This is high school. Wait for somebody to come pick them up from class. Then the adult had to supervise them to the bathroom. In some cases, not all, but in some cases, the adults supervising them would stand by the door to make sure they heard them use the bathroom. And if not, they would get some sort of a punishment for trying to ditch class or just be out of class, even though they don't have to go, right? And so that was happening. And or if a student was asking to go too many times, they also could get a demerit, which meant like, you get a punishment for asking to go to the bathroom. I will say that the network has done a lot of work around removing those oppressive practices. So I'm really, really excited about CJ, who is leading the network, in being more restorative and more aligned to the humanity of the students that they're serving. But it was really not a space of, like Trayvon talked about, it really was not a space of cultivating their individuality. They had no space or room to be free to express themselves or to, even move about the building as a high school student. So I think Raven also mentioned just level zero, that practice about, there are some schools where, students are expected to be silent at lunch. And it's like, you don't want us to talk in class. You don't want us to talk in the hallway. We got level zero transitions and level zero lunch. Like, what you expect from us, right? And then would get upset if they didn't fall in line, right? So those are some of the policies that I think Trayvon is speaking to. I see Janelle just said she got PTSD. Yeah. And Johnson has improved a lot. It has, right? But I think the something else that you brought up, Trayvon, was like the school to prison pipeline, right? Like walking in lines, wearing these uniforms. And I think that there are a lot of people, and let me just be clear in saying, I had to apologize to Trayvon on the last live because I worked at this school. I was upholding these practices. I was keeping kids in line. And they will tell you, Ms. Carew, be like, I'll wait, don't worry. I didn't play, right? But so I had to apologize for that work. So I'm not, saying anybody's a bad person or a bad educator, because the truth is I thought that all of those policies were created with good intentions, right? So it's like, we need to teach you how to act now so that when you become an adult, you'll know how to follow directions and do all these different things. What I know now, though, is this idea of respectability doesn't really help our kids anyway. It's like you could teach them how to do all those things, but they could still go jogging and get shot down. Nobody's being disrespectful. Nobody's, it's just that I'm Black and like you feel like I'm a threat. So no matter how respectful I try to be, it doesn't serve me anyway. And so I think he spoke to some of the oppressive practices that, just didn't serve him well. Trayvon, did you feel like you had a say over what you learned and how you learned at any point through K-12?
Uh, to an extent, I had it was very individual. Generally, no, never, not in grammar school, not in high school. I did have individual teachers that would allow students to have some type of democratic influence on how they wanted to learn or what type of content should they learn, because they were aware that, hey, they don't really need to learn this, or this, excuse me, or this isn't, really essential to the betterment and the progression of their, educational advancements. Um, Real quick though, on the policies, I didn't even have a problem with those policies simply because I'm rebellious. My policy that I always had a problem with, and this is period, um, and this is a quote: good work ethic and behavior is required to obtain higher learning. Um, it's been paraphrased to me a lot of ways, but I've had a lot of teachers tell me, I know you're smart and I know you're capable of doing the work, but because you don't have the behavior of a student who's supposed to exhibit intelligence, we can't give you the challenging work. Or because you don't know how to do your homework, we can't give you this challenging work. And I ain't gonna lie, that shit was a slap in the face. Excuse my French, but it
You
was a
grown?
slap. It was a slap in the face because it's like I damn near can outwork majority of my teachers. That was the mentality I had. since grammar school, that was the mentality I had. And a lot of my teachers showed me I could outwork them just by the level of work that they was putting out. So in that respect, it was like, all right, it's either you intimidated by me or you just intentionally don't want me to succeed. That's how I was looking at it. Because if I'm telling you this work ain't doing it, and I'm telling you I'm not gonna do the work because I'm not learning from it. You just got me flip, hey, here you go. Here's a paper. Here's a paper. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you piss poor effort and it's still gonna be better than most people work. And that's not a knock against nobody. That's just that's just a reflection of my intelligence. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to help me raise the bar. Let me challenge myself. But it is what it is.
Yeah, no, this is real, and it just took me back because I know that knowing what I know now, I would have been a much better teacher then. I just didn't know any better at the time, right? And so I like to think, but I'm gonna pause for a second before I ask you another question because I think it's important for me to model the expectations that I am suggesting could be helpful in terms of student advocacy. But I'm gonna pause right here for a second, Trayvon, and just allow you for real while people are watching on this live to like give me feedback, right? I think that I did apologize last time, but I don't know that there were specifics around like how I upheld oppressive practices towards you. But like give me feedback. I want people to see like, because I think part of the issue, and I know that this was the case at Johnson too, and at many other schools that I worked at, where it's like students had questions, they wanted to challenge adults, but they were told like you being disrespectful because you asking a question, right? Or
Right.
you being disrespectful because you telling me that my class is boring. It's like, no, I'm not. It's not about you. I'm just telling you that I'm not getting what I need from this class, and adults weren't able to handle that from students. And so I just want to model for the people who are watching what this could look like and feel like as students are trying to advocate for themselves. So the floor is yours. Like, give it to me. What
Uh,
feedback do you have?
First and foremost, I feel like as a teacher, when you teaching people who come from poverty, you got to remember majority of them are used to being told, no, you can't do this. No, you won't be able to do this. No, you're not allowed access to this. Shut up. Sit down. You stupid. This why you won't learn nothing. You always doing this. Can't sit down. You always a problem. You loud. You belligerent. When really nobody understanding me. Nobody's taking the time to understand me. So I do it get y'all attention. And it's as simple as that. A lot of kids act out because this is what gets your attention. I don't want the negative attention, but apparently that's the only thing that entices and excites you all. So that's what I have to give y'all.
Hmm. So thank you, but get specific. Say you, Miss Carew,
Oh,
did XYZ, or you, Miss Carew, could have done XYZ, or Mama Roo, whatever you call me, you know.
you was only my teacher for a year.
I
So
know.
I can't really say as a advisor that's different because we had a different relationship. So that ain't really the same as a teacher student.
Okay.
But I would say I don't know. My only problem with you was you ain't let me turn in work without showing work. But that was my problem with every math teacher. But I always felt like I didn't need to show work if I got the right answer. And if I could tell you how I got the right answer, then it's all good. And then if I could give you a step or a process to get the right answer that you didn't even know about, it should really be good.
Hmm.
But you ain't see it that way. A lot of teachers ain't see it that way. Just
Yeah.
charge it to the
So
game. It's all good.
yeah, no, ain't no charges to the game. Charges to my head. I will say not my heart because that wasn't my intention. But intent doesn't matter. I'm gonna apologize for that right now because I was taught as a math teacher. There's one way to do it. You don't know if they know it. If they don't write all the work out, there was no idea of multiple forms of mastery. So it's like I said, write it on a paper. That's what I meant. Even if you could explain it to me, that wasn't the cookie cutter experience that I was taught. that we should be giving students, right? And I think even in good intent, right? It's this whole
Hmm.
idea of, consistency. Well, if you let Trayvon tell you how to do it, why you not letting so and so tell you how to do it? And then like trying to manage all of that. And again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying to you, I apologize. I didn't know any better at the time. I now know that it's actually healthy and okay to have multiple ways for students to demonstrate mastery, and beyond demonstrate mastery, like what are we actually putting in front of kids? Because what I heard you say was, don't give me another worksheet. Like, why are you, and then you tripping on me and I got to go to LaSalle and do all this stuff because I didn't turn in this crap of an assignment. And instead of us being reflective and being like, why are so many kids in LaSalle? We want to make it about the student and say, y'all, it's y'all not working hard enough. Y'all don't want to do it. When really we had brilliant minds in that building and we weren't cultivating the brilliance that existed.
One of the biggest things I never liked in school was that little reading assessment we took to assess how good your reading level was and what
Mm-hmm.
was your interest, like genres and stuff. Because people would really put their reading interest, and it's like nobody paid attention to it. It's like I'm doing this so y'all can make money. That's what it is. Because
You are so
we not
right.
getting no content in here that none of these students care to read about. They said they want to read this. This is going to help them learn. And what you do the exact opposite. And then you turn around and, oh, students can't read or they don't want to read. I wonder why. Give
Yeah,
them what
you
they want to
right.
read. And then if you give them what they want to read, maybe they'll be more receptive to trying to read something they weren't comfortable with because now they'll feel comfortable in their own abilities. But you got to give people a chance first. If they telling you what they need to help themselves, give them what they need. A teacher don't always know what to do. They just know how to teach. And
You
even
hit it
then,
on the
they don't know how to
head.
teach.
Yeah, you hit it on the head with these surveys. It's like in some cases, schools don't even give student surveys. But in the cases that they do, the question becomes, what are you doing with the data? So if I told you that I'm into cars, why haven't you used that in your lesson plan? And why ask me? My whole thing is, don't try to fake the funk. If you don't really care, you're not going to use it, then don't ask me, right? Um, Let me go back to some of these comments, Trayvon. Let's see. It says, so, yep, really a prison mentality. Yes, Corey. He said that's because they lacked cultural relevance. Absolutely, the assignments. Marshawn said
Mm-hmm.
basically schools force kids to conform to the educational values developed by a class system in which they don't belong. You better talk about it. All of this stuff is built on white supremacy. All of
Yeah.
it. Institutional racism, right? But ask me how many schools I've worked at that actually talk about racism and white supremacy. None that I've worked at.
No.
And I think there's this false notion too that because I'm black, that I don't uphold oppression in schools. And it's like, I'm black, but I also have internalized this institutional racism, which then means I am being, I'm portraying that to my students, even when that's not my intent. It's because it's unconscious.
Yep.
Corey said level zero lunch should be illegal. I agree. And here's what I want. If there are parents who are watching, parents, if you are watching and you hear your child come home talking about level zero lunches and all that, advocate on their behalf. School is more than academic success. It is about social interactions. It is about learning how to be friends with people. It is so much more than what the test can portray, which are biased, and that's another conversation. But
Yep.
listen to your kids, because I know that growing up we often said like, that's the adult, I'm gonna believe them. And I'm not saying you should tell the kid, no, don't listen to your teacher or none of that, because I don't think that that's healthy either. But listen to them and then follow up with the adult so that you can advocate for their well-being. Like, everything that's happening in schools is not perfect, and students have a voice.
Nope.
They will tell you what's going on. We just have to listen. Let's see. Brianna said it didn't really. Oh, I didn't really see the issues until I was teaching at a noble school. Yeah, I don't think none of us saw it when we were in it. It's like we drunk the Kool-Aid. Like, yeah, we signing up for this because this is what's gonna get your kid to college, and we're gonna talk about college in a second, Trey. But let me go through these comments. These folk are killing us solely because of the pigmentation of our skin. Absolutely. So this concept of respectability, like, and parents feel some kind of way. It's like, I got to prepare my young black child, my young black son, to understand what he's going to face out there. Say yes, sir, no, sir, all this stuff. but we've been shown time and time again that even when our young black men and young black girls are respectful, they still die. So
Yes.
there's no teaching our kids out of racism. There's no teaching our kids out of the injustices that they like experience every day. So I just
When
want you
you
guys
got
to go
not
ahead.
to cut you off, when you got centuries of ideology aggressively hardwired into somebody's DNA, it's hard to shake that. No matter how much you try, it's hard to shake that.
And it's not just white folk, it's black folks too, me included. I
It's
was
not
telling
even.
them
It's
kids,
all folks.
yeah,
It ain't a white and black thing. It's a all
you're
thing.
right. Trayvon, you better get me together. You're right, right?
It's
But
a
I think
all thing.
oftentimes because people
We just minimize it to a white and black
yes,
thing.
yes, yes. And so I'm glad that you corrected that because that is absolutely right. Janelle said, I thought it was great until I became an adult and realized how controlling it was. She went to a camp, one of the campuses as well. Let's see. Raven said she agreed to Janelle. Yep. Let's see what else we got here. Laura said that part. Most inner city students are traumatized not just by their environments, but by adults generally, the ones who raise and educate them. Yeah, yeah, that's so real. Let's see what else we got. Smiley said, right. That's how I felt. I got the right answer. That's all that matters. You're right, Calvin. I apologize for I was your ninth grade math teacher. Yeah, I was Calvin's ninth grade math teacher, I think. I'm sorry. You had the right answer. It wasn't good enough for me because I thought that that meant having high expectations for you and your learning when really what I was doing was causing harm to you. Your best then was good enough. Your best now is good enough. And I wish that I knew better then, but I know better now. So please accept my apology and please understand that no matter who, what, where, your best is always good enough. Okay. Donnell said, me, me, mama gave me an L for that. Oh, I gave him a LaSalle for not showing his work. Sorry, y'all. And then we find two other ways to find the answer. Yep.
Hey,
So Brianna, go ahead.
to that point, what is sending me to LaSalle because I forgot to put a period going to really teach me about doing my homework,
It's not, but can I tell?
or teach me about the content of the work that I was supposed to learn or be learning?
Right, it's not. Can I tell you what I thought the intention was? I thought the intent was to teach you work ethic, not necessarily the content. Because what I struggle with transparently giving you guys LaSalle's was that there were some kids who legit I knew showed up to my class and didn't do the work because they didn't know how. Not because they didn't want to do it, but they legit didn't know how to do it. And so the policy states it don't matter, get them to LaSalle, be consistent, one fly with y'all fly, that same thing. So I was giving LaSalle's, but then I'm like, why are they going to LaSalle? If they didn't know how to do it last night, they're not gonna know how to do it tonight in LaSalle either. But the way that I understood it was that we're teaching them that, like, no, what they should have did was did whatever they could to figure out the answers, no excuses, get it done, figure out. And so, or if you, to your point, you only did half the assignment or you left a period off here and there, it's like, nope, you're not paying attention to details. That could be the one thing that'll get you out of college because you didn't hit submit on that one thing on your application. And while then it made a little bit of sense to me, I'm just like, that just doesn't make sense. It's like, I have oftentimes submitted things and had to go back and say, hey, can I resubmit because I was not, and people are like, sure, no problem. So like this false understanding that, if
That
you're
that's
not
the
perfect.
that's the exact point that I didn't. That's why I disagree with LaSalle because if you expecting a certain level of perfect out of me, everybody, the entire world needs to be in LaSalle. Every day,
Exactly.
the entire world should be in LaSalle because nobody gonna give you a perfect anything.
Yep. You right about that. Brianna said, did not play about the work being shown. I sure didn't. I will say though, and now this is because neither one of us knew any better, but y'all used to say I was a dope teacher. So let's go a little easy on Mr. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Put it in there. And I didn't play about the work being shown. Janelle said, what do you think about Montessori schools? Do you know what those are, Trae? I could talk about that. I don't know if you know what those are.
I was gonna be I don't, I'm not too familiar. Well,
Okay,
I
so
might just not have heard it that term.
okay. So Montessori schools are basically how can I say it? It's basically like a free play, not free play, um, free structure. There's no like set time to do certain things. So for example, students come in, they get a learning plan for the day, sometimes for the week. Students get to determine when they want to do math, when they want to do reading. So there's no whole group lesson where kids are sitting in desks at, in rows watching the teacher teach. It's none of that. It's, hey, this is what you have to do today or for the week. You get to decide if you want to start math today, you do that. If you want to start reading, you do that. And then when you have questions, you call me over and I help you work through it individually. So
Dang.
it's a very unstructured approach to learning, but I think what it does is cultivate self-determination, and that, if math is my worst subject because I don't feel good about that, I might want to knock that out first so that I have more energy, and then in the afternoon I could do the reading because I jam with reading, right? That
Right.
may not be the case for the person sitting next to me, and that's okay because we can work at our own pace. And so I really like the approach in Montessori schools, Janelle. It is I don't know a whole lot about it, so I'm not going to say I'm an expert at it. But what I will say is I like the idea of students learning very early on, because they have them like starting in kindergarten, learning very early on that you get to determine your success. Like, you have options, you get choices, do what's best for you. Advocate for yourself. It teaches so much more than the actual content, which is what I love about it, because I feel like in the structured environment, kids' hands get held for so long, and then when they go off to college, it's like, oh, we expect them to then just be able to sustain themselves, and it's like, we never gave them an opportunity to slip up. We never gave them an opportunity to fail. We never gave any of that. It was just like, nope, we're gonna tell you what you need to do. I'm gonna remind you, your stuff due tomorrow. It was just a lot of hand holding, and so I like that Montessori schools don't do that.
Do they have those type of schools on the college level?
You know what? They don't.
Mm,
They don't.
interesting.
I've not that I know of. I would have to do some work around that. And so here is my other concern
I'm
with
about
K
to do some
12.
research too.
Yeah, my other concern with K 12 is that we keep saying we're preparing kids for college, right? And I don't necessarily think we're talking about academics. I think we're talking more for the look, I'm trying to be politically correct. We're more so preparing them for the hot garbage that they're going to experience. And so here's the thing. The notion is, whenever we bring up in K-12, like, oh, your class is boring, make it fun, do this, do that, they be like, well, why would we make it fun here when in college they have to sit in lectures for 3 hours and it's boring and you just have to sit there and listen? It's like, listen, that's crazy to think. Like, we shouldn't be trying to tailor their experience to college. We should be trying to figure out why college is like that. Like, don't prepare them for garbage. Let's give them what they need
Man,
now and then change that structure too, right? But we're just like, nope, backwards mapping. If college is the goal, we're going to get them a bogus education K-12 to meet that expectation. And it's like, no, that's crazy. So to your question, I like Montessori. I have to do more learning on it, but often what I've heard people say, and this is just what I've heard in my small circle, is that they don't feel like Montessori schools will work for poor Black children because they need structure. That's what they think. I don't believe that. I believe that every child,
yeah, I don't
every
believe that.
race, every race has the capacity to make good choices. And will make mistakes, no doubt. Even in Montessori schools, they make mistakes. But the good part about Montessori schools is they're making mistakes starting in kindergarten. So they build that stamina of making mistakes. So if in kindergarten I learned that if I don't never do math, I'm going to get an F, by
Hmm.
first grade, I figured it out. Okay, I understood. I got a whatever. I didn't get the little smiley face. I want the smiley face. So now I have to do something different. That's what I like about that. Let's see. What else we got on here? Summer Adam says she agree. Raven. Then they give you a level with only certain books you can read. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
That whole reading situation, we got to do a better job of just fostering reading and just in general. Even when I was growing up, wasn't a love of reading was not developed in me. I was often made to read whenever we were misbehaving. So it's like, if y'all talk too much, y'all gonna sit down and read for an hour. Well, because of that, I don't really like reading, if I'm being honest. But I think that it's something that we need to actively cultivate. Jaren talked about project-based learning. Absolutely. Janelle said kids will tell you what they want to learn. Yes. And
Learn.
when I had Miss, go ahead, Trayvon.
I was gonna say learning should be realistic, not simulated.
And when I had Miss Lane on here, I forgot to bring this up. She was on the last live or the live before that. She talked about at some point how her kids were really fascinated with boogers. I think she teaches like sixth grade or something like that. And she turned it into a unit. So instead of saying that's disgusting, that's not on the unit plan, that's not what we're supposed to be learning, there's a lot of science, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of technique that kids can learn through researching about boogers.
I
If
was
that's
just
what they're
about to say,
interested in,
it is
let
so
them.
much you could teach a child just from starting with boogers. And they'll want to learn it just because you engage what they wanted to engage in.
But
And that's
that's
where
what
people
made,
lose it.
yeah. And that's what made her an effective teacher because she cared about her kids wanting to do the work, right? We as teachers can't be the ones to say, well, do it or not. It's up to you. Like, no, if they're not doing the work, that means you're not doing your job. If they're not learning, you're not teaching, that you're not doing the job. What else we got on here? We got a lot of JCP people. Thank y'all for joining.
Thanks.
Let's see. Who else? Monique. Let's see. Hey, y'all. Hey, Jarema. Okay, so Calvin said, TT, you on here spilling all the secrets. We need you for president. So here's the thing, Calvin. I'm not perfect. I don't, like I said, I just had to apologize because I didn't know this stuff when I was a teacher many years ago. So,
And
but yeah.
Jarema on here, I remember when she was Miss Nolan. Now she Miss
So that's what
Dawn.
she said. She said you were her student. What grade did you, do you remember?
7th, 8th.
Wow, the world is so small. So you know she teaches at Butler.
Nah, I know now.
So she's no, yeah. So she's been a part of the network, so she knows exactly what you're talking about. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Trae Wright. She said she's so proud of you.
Thank you.
What? This done bought Percy out?
Yeah,
And you
Percy,
know Percy be avoiding us.
he ain't been avoiding me. We've been getting back a line. He good now.
Oh, well, that's good. He
He
just
let
avoiding me then.
he let his transgressions go.
Somebody named Robert Williams said, "What's up, bro?"
What's up, bro?
Let's see. Oh, Reagan said I was a dope teacher. Thank you. Chanel Brown says still dope. Thank you. Let's see, Brianna, you were one of the best teachers to walk that hallway. To this day, I remember 90% is believing, 10% is effort. But let me tell you how crazy that is, Brianna. Though, even though I was dope and making y'all say that, I used to get mad and give y'all demerits when y'all didn't say it. That's the crazy part about it. It's like I'm trying to encourage y'all, but then when y'all didn't do what I wanted y'all to do about encouraging y'all, I would still get upset. It's like, what are you doing? But yes, I still say that now. Jaron said, as soon as we stop the mentality of breaking down to build up, oh, you better preach. Breaking
Deficit
down to
thinking.
build up,
Deficit thinking.
deficit.
Deficit thinking. It's been
That y'all
plaguing
don't
us for
come with
centuries.
nothing. They don't know nothing. We got to save them. We got to tell them all the stuff because they don't know it.
Yeah.
Oh, oh. Chanel said, I personally wish I had an option for the Montessori school. So there is one, and I only know it because it's right here by my house, but it's a charter school, though. It's one in Inglewood, too. Just Google, Chanel, connect with me. I'll help you find some options, or at least to see. I don't know, what's out there, but I'll at least try to find some stuff for you. Cameron said, right, but you stopped with us. You just left us. So he's talking about when I was at another school. So here's the thing. I'm sorry for that. As the school is closing that you are at right now at the end of this year, when this academic year closes, come talk to me and we can have a conversation about that. But professionally, I was not able to leave in the way that I wanted to leave. After you graduate, or at this point at the end of this year, because the school will be closing, I can have a more honest conversation with you because you are much older to understand it. But in the middle of the school year, I could not tell you the real. So I'm sorry for leaving you guys. I love you still. And if you want to talk to me about it, come holler at me in July. Let's see. What else? Lord, yes, high school is a joke. High school is absolutely a joke. This came up in the last live. Julian Bond said black violence, and this every time just shakes my soul. He said black violence is no violence is black students going to school for 12 years and only getting 6 years of an education. So if you tell me I'm only getting 6 years of education, then that means you can nix high school altogether because I'm not learning anything anyway.
Yeah,
And so we go ahead.
high school definitely a joke. I believe the kids that go straight to college at 12, 11, 13, they not anomalies. They just got people behind them that's able to put them in position. It's a million black kids million brown kids that could go straight to college from 6th, 7th grade. They just ain't got the right people behind them or the right people around them. Is high school really is for preteens and adolescents to learn how to socially interact with adults. It ain't a place
Mm.
to really learn because you ain't honestly what 16, 15-year-old child got time to really be paying attention to learn and they in a room full of kids. At that point, they not thinking about learning. They thinking about exploring themselves as children. Well, not they not children at that point. Well, they children, but they
Teenagers, but yeah.
they exploring themselves. They want to. Oh well, I'm growing. I want Oh man, Johnson. I ain't gonna lie. Johnson killed a lot of people's career. Well, not career, but dreams of having an athletic career. And that's not to say that you should chase being an athlete, but in our neighborhood, a lot of kids really didn't have a successful chance at college. But athletics was a very, very, very hopeful outlook and a very almost guaranteed outlook for a lot of people, even if it was at the Division II or lower collegiate level. It's better than nothing. It's better than what a lot of people got now. Johnson ain't push athletics. They didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
They did
Because it
not
was
care.
college prep.
It
Yep.
was
It was
college
all about
prep.
college prep.
And even
Yeah.
then though, and at first I used to bite the it's college prep. But then when you go look around suburbs and you look at stuff like New Triers and all the other suburban schools that's college
You
prep,
better preach.
they scouting. They got D1 scouts at their schools. They athletic programs known around the world. Why we can't be known?
You
Why we
better
gotta have the
preach.
black kids? We the
Mm.
black kids that don't nobody want. And I didn't like how our name got changed from Noble Inglewood to Johnson College Prep. What's wrong with Noble Inglewood? Don't get me wrong. I love who John Johnson and Eunice Johnson is, and by all means, they are very powerful black people. But why we couldn't have a chance to make Noble Inglewood be something that really changed? Because no, Johnson doing great things now, which is why I wish it would have still been Noble Inglewood. Because hey, look, Inglewood ain't what all this cracked up to be. What y'all see in the papers, what y'all see on the news. There's a lot of good things going on in Inglewood. Y'all just don't care to really learn. Y'all just care to read what y'all see. It ain't that.
You know what it's about, Trayvon? It's about money.
Oh man, dollars drive everything. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. If it don't make sense, it don't make sense.
That's it. So yeah, but I do want to push you a little bit though on I'm with you 100% on the like we didn't talk about athletics. We didn't pour into the program like we should have. However, I heard you say like not all kids had or was something to this extent. I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but something to the extent of not all of the students would have had access to college. Here is what I'm trying to say, Trae, and you know, it might appear that way. If we were really educating and not schooling kids, if we were really educating since kindergarten, every single kid should have access to college. There then becomes no gray area of like, well, these kids college, like this whole idea that college is not for me. Any black and brown student can go to college and murder the scene. We so brilliant, we're so smart, we have everything it takes. It's all about preparation and really not necessarily academic preparation, but confidence. Do I believe? Do I know what exists? Are there opportunities for me to get there? Right? And I just feel like by design, everybody didn't get what they needed to get starting in kindergarten, which then led to this kind of opportunity gap, not achievement gap, because brilliant, right? But didn't lead to the opportunities that they needed. Raven said, Berea College is the closest Montessori as you get, but they're not quite there. Thank you, Raven. I'm gonna look into that. Somebody said, hey, Miss Carew, but I don't know the first name. Tay Tay, at your picture to see you, but thank you. Homeschooling I feel is needed, starts in home. Yeah, to some extent. You know, at the same time, parents are also working. And so, you know, if you expect me to go to work every day and bring home the money, if you expect me to go to work every day and bring home the money, you can't also expect me to educate my child in a way that a teacher signed up to do, right? So yeah, homeschooling starts at home, but to me, homeschooling is let's get in this kitchen and cook some recipes together, learn time, learn what, you know, measurement like that. It's not here go an algebra lesson, sit down and figure out how to teach your kid. That's not it.
College shouldn't even exist simply because it's an institution made to further separate people. And not only that, it's an institution made to trap those that seeking a way out to fall back into the trap.
Yes, all of
I
that.
experienced that firsthand.
Who is Bashville J Rock? You know who that is, Trey?
That's
Uh,
Jalen.
Oh, hi, Jalen. He said I was his favorite teacher there. Marshawn said, not thinking those schools are good for us have everything to do with their view of us as people. The view is that we are an unruly people. Yes, unfortunately, we as Black educators were trained by many people. Yes, with that view, so we repeat those behaviors. Yes, because everybody told me, make sure they're on level zeros. This side of the hallway, do all this because they need structure. And if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. D them up. We were told that in training, like, give as many demerits as you can because we're going to teach them early on. The earlier you catch them, then they basically socialization. The earlier you get them in line and get them in check, you ain't going to have to worry about it later.
Yeah.
Oh, Jarima said, y'all spilling all the tea. What do we need to create a space that our Black and brown children can thrive? She said, I am loving this conversation. So Trayvon, I'm gonna let you speak. What do we need to do for Black and brown children to thrive? Like what to create a space for that to happen?
Get a national panel of Black and brown kids from every grade level, college included, and ask them what's the best way for them to start learning.
Out of the mouth of babes. Ask. That's for me. That's where I'm coming from. Every time I'm at tables where CEOs, teachers, principals are talking about, even now, especially out in the wake of COVID, they're like, well, what do we need to do to shift schools and all this in the fall? And all of the principals, teachers, and all that, not even teachers, really, it's the higher up people talking about what schools need to look like. I'm like, how y'all gonna ask what the schedule is gonna be like without asking the parents who got to make sure the kids get there? How you gonna ask what teaching and learning should look like without asking the kids who have to sit down and learn?
Yeah, I really got a problem with the people that's higher up in the educational system simply because a lot of them don't know nothing about education. They just got administrative degrees, so they lucked up.
That too. That part. We don't talk about that. That part. Um, Calvin talking about he don't remember anything from high school. You remember that video you did on my birthday. You
Hey,
remember me
Calvin,
telling you, go ahead.
if you don't remember nothing from high school, it's because there was nothing of value being taught to you.
Ooh. And what I was about to say ain't had nothing to do with teaching and learning. I was about to say, you remember that video? You remember me telling you was gonna be the at the time? No, I don't know. I said you was gonna be the president when you got older. You remember me saying I want a Jag truck because every time you have an opportunity, you say, TT, I'm gonna make sure you get that Jag truck. So you remember the relationships that you and I at least fostered.
And thank you for that sentiment because that just epitomized what I said. You taught them something of value, and that stuck with them.
That's it. He don't remember nothing from my algebra class though, and I ain't mad at him because I wouldn't either. Lord said our class alone changed the narrative for Inglewood simply because we did so many great things. Y'all did, Lord, and especially given the circumstance. And I'm not here to say Johnson was a terrible school. Like I love that school. That was some of the best moments in my life and in my career. We also had room to grow. We didn't do the best that we could, but what I will say, and I'm not even capping on this. That's what y'all say.
Yeah, no
Um,
cap.
I'm not even capping on this. Working at Johnson was the best team of educators that I have ever worked with, ever. When I say cared, loved, supported, I wasn't the only one picking kids up off the bus stop. When y'all was over there fighting Inglewood, I
Nope.
jumped in the middle. Like, we ain't doing this. Let's go, right? There are people who pack their stuff up and go home when y'all go home.
Hey,
I
and
ain't
this
ne-
to that point is crazy because it really hurt a lot of students hard that teachers told us we would get suspended and expelled for trying to defend our fellow students.
I know.
But we ain't gonna
And I'm gonna
talk
tell
about
you,
that.
no, we should talk about it because here's the thing, Trae. Because I was back there too, and I was dealing with students at that time when that fight broke out at Inglewood. Now, here's the thing: I wasn't in the building talking crazy. I was on that corner with y'all, but at the same time, I remember throwing Carion like, if you don't move, Carion, you finna get suspended. Like I was going crazy, right? Not because I didn't understand the importance of y'all coming together, but more so I understood that y'all could get killed, and I didn't want that to happen. So I was trying to threaten y'all, not because I didn't want y'all to support and be there and ride for each other, but more so like if y'all did choose to do that, these people don't have nothing to lose, and it could get ugly. But Black people are a communal people. Like you better ride for your people. Like yes, right. But we don't. That's not something we talk about in schools because it's not the respectability. It's not the politically correct thing to do. Let's see what Raven said. She said, I tried so hard as a manager to get y'all videotaped and scouts. She did.
Yes,
Raven
you
loves
did.
good Raven.
Raven, you was the best manager any sports team could
She
ask for.
was. She was. She said, I even advocated on y'all behalf that y'all needed that. Nobody would listen. Raven, you did. And this is why
Nah,
I'm going to push you again. If you haven't done this yet, Raven, because the last time we had a conversation around Johnson, I told you to go up to that school right now and start an alumni association. I told you personally that. So I'm going to hold you accountable to that
I second that
because,
notion.
and you need to be up there too, Trayvon, right?
I'll be up there.
Um, but
I'll
yeah,
be
thank
up
you for
there.
all your work, Raven. You are amazing. Jaron said, if you want to do high school, great. Create
Right.
an IEP for each kid and ask them what sort of impact they wish to make, build from there. So I actually believe in this notion of individual education plans for all kids. It goes back to Janelle's point about Montessori schools. No kid is the same as the next. So this whole idea that we have to progress based on your age from grade level to grade level and do all this stuff is malarkey. Because at the end of the day, if I can come in as a 7-year-old and knows ninth grade algebra, why do I have to sit in class, math class, for third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, just because that's the system, right? So to your point, an individual education plan, whether you have a disability or not, to me is just best practices, because what works for me may not work for the next person. Jalen said exactly, building the characteristics of your child, like saying, let's make this cake, teach it how to follow instructions and so on. Yes, all of that is learning. And that's why I'm saying, as parents, push back, advocate, especially during this time when what I'm hearing teachers are sending home these ridiculous packets and you got to learn the skill by watching Khan Academy, then sit there with them doing all these practice problems. Like, no, teach them something that is embedded in your everyday life. If we're watching Netflix together, let's watch this series, All American. Let's compare and contrast characters. Let's have a debate about, whose position you take and why. There's so much learning that can happen, and it doesn't have to be measured by a test. The point is, are we having the critical conversations? Are we debating? Are we looking at the time, elapsed time when we're cooking? These are all ways to learn. So absolutely. Percy said, the irony of being college prep, but only preparing for a fluently racially biased test. Oh, Percy. This is another one of my Karoo boys, y'all. He is so dope. Y'all see where he get it from. But he said, racially biased tests that do nothing but waste trees and bright minds. Oh, just for robotic institutionalization. Best way I can phrase it. Absolutely. Standardized test scores, they're not a predictor of anything. And in fact, the most recent
Yes, sir,
research out of
Percy. I'm
yes, the
sorry.
most recent that's okay. The most recent research out of University of Chicago said the two biggest predictors of college success is GPA and attendance. Nowhere in there is standardized test scores, which is why, to the credit of a lot of higher ed institutions, they're getting rid of SAT and ACT scores, because it's really not like, I had a 21. I took it one time. And at the time, Moria Park was like, you don't have at least a 25, you're not going to go nowhere. You're not going to have no options. I wrote a dope personal essay, got into U of I, and killed it. So like this whole notion that like this, and I know somebody who got into U of I with a 16 on the ACT because they had a dope personal statement, a high GPA, and they worked really hard. They graduated. So this whole notion that like this standardized test is, the end all be all, first of all, is biased. It doesn't really measure critical thinking. It measures,
Standardized tests only measure how much dollars we could give. That's all it measures.
you better speak.
That's all it
Raven said,
measures. How many
yep.
dollars we got for you?
Raven said alumni need to come back and have a seat at the table too. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to the, listen, I'm speaking as a former principal too. I didn't run my school. I'm talking all this good stuff now. Let me tell you something. When I was a principal, I had no idea. My capacity for what I'm talking about today was not there. It was non-existent. Had somebody come to me though and said, like, I'm not going to say that. I've always believed in student voice. I've always done surveys. I've always wanted their, student perception, how things are going, what could be better. But I feel like had I had more people who was feeding stuff like this to me, or students wanting to be involved, I would have been even more effective. So yes, go back to the school, give your input. They need that. Percy said, and Miss Carew, I love you. It was you that helped me realize my gift in math. You could have taught us how to build a spacecraft and we would have all succeeded. Percy, I miss you, son. So you've been we're gonna have to wrap offline, but I feel like you've been not showing me no love. So I'm happy to hear from you. I love you more, you know that. And I'm happy to know that I had a positive impact. And I really believe that about y'all. I've always said, like, which is why we had the highest math scores across the network. So I left a school
that was doing really well downtown to go to Inglewood because it was a hard to staff school. And when I got there, what happened? The highest scores across all 10 campuses. And they were like, all these people were coming and visiting. What are you doing? What are you doing? I care about them. I believe that they can do it. That's what I'm doing. Ain't nothing great about what I'm doing. I'm giving worksheets just like the next teacher. But I made y'all believe that y'all were capable. And I really believe that in my heart. And that's why y'all succeeded. So y'all actually made my job really easy. I appreciate y'all. Kadeja said that fight made me look at administration differently. Kadeja pushed me right in here, right? Because I'm owning what I did. Like, I know I was on that corner when y'all was fighting. And to Ms. Barnes' credit, she was throwing hands with y'all. Like, this is what I'm saying when I say Johnson's staff was about it. We messed up in a lot of ways, but I felt like we was there. At least I thought that. Y'all could tell me if I'm wrong. Jay says she agreed about the fight too. Hey, Tonto. Um. Hey, D-Man. Antonio said he had a 17. Sorry, his name is Corey. He graduated from Morehouse, and he only had a 17 on the ACT. He's in a doctoral program right now. So again, just another confirmation that like those scores don't mean nothing. Illini Pride, yes, Lord, ILL. Corey graduated within 4 years. Yep. Raven said she had a 19 on the ACT. She's about to graduate with her master's.
I had a
Kadeja,
28 out. I didn't even finish my freshman year.
that's what we're about to talk about right now. I was just trying to look at their comments. We have a bunch of politicians in education instead of educators. That part too. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that I care. No, they don't, because they be like, well, they only do that because she's black and they're black, or you know, and even some of the policies and stuff that they have now. And don't get me wrong, hear me out. I get it, because some people completely misuse their power as educators and cross the line. But to say I can't text my kids, to say I can't give them a ride if I see them out on a bus stop and it's late at night, to say all of these things because of the actions of a few people, to me, further exacerbates the division that they are trying to have. It's like, I know good and well the kids in Inglewood needed to have my cell phone. I needed to actually roll up many a times on Marcel, and they told us we weren't supposed to have kids in our car. I would roll up on the block, get in here, I'm taking you home, fire me. Like, that was me, because I didn't have kids and didn't have all these responsibilities. But why did I have to choose between breaking the rules and doing what was best for my kids? That was a tough spot to be in. So
That's because students expendable in the game of it all.
they ain't trying to hear that, Trae. You trying to go too deep. They ain't trying to hear that.
Because man, I go deep because that's the only way people will really get to talking. That's the only thing that grab people's attention, going deep.
People ain't ready though, and I think that's what we need, because people ain't never gonna be ready, is my
And
point,
then I was
right?
just about to say, and that's the point. We got to stop saying people ain't ready, because people ain't gonna never be ready. It's either get
People
on the
ain't never.
boat or drown.
That's it. And so when I say people ain't ready, I'm just basically saying rhetorically, like, oops, speak. But like you said, people ain't never gonna be ready. So my last question, Trayvon, and we've been on here for an hour. I ain't gonna keep you too long. I know you got the babies to get to.
I'm
It's
good.
just
They mama got it.
around. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about, like, so you talked about 15 college acceptance, 28 on the ACT. Did you really feel prepared for college? Why or why not? Let's start there.
Nah, I had all the academic potential. Yeah, that was the. I definitely had a work ethic to do the work. Well, I'm not gonna even say that. I'm gonna retract that statement, because I did had a work ethic to do the work in college. I just wasn't mentally or emotionally there. For one, I had a troubled childhood. I had a rough life at home, so it was like, for me to go to college, I'm not thinking about trying to go to class. I'm thinking about, man, I get a breath of fresh air. And then I was down in Champaign. I'm a nature person. I love nature. So me being down in Champaign, Urbana, I'm by cornfields, beautiful sun, clear skies, and stars. So for me, that's therapy. I'm not about to sit here and go to class. I've been stressed out with school for 12 plus years. I'm not going to continue to stress myself out with that. I need some help. I need therapy. I don't really like engaging people talking about what I got going on, because it's like, you ain't gonna truly understand me because you're not me. For as much as you can empathize, you're not gonna be able to truly feel because you're not me. So it's like, I just let nature do what nature's supposed to do, cleanse you. So that was my therapy. I go to class, and I give a specific example. My Spanish class, I never went to Spanish class, simply because I didn't want to buy the book, simply because I had the money for it, but I had other things that were more important to spend my money on than my money needed to go towards than spending money on the book. And then I had my midterm. I showed up, met my Spanish teacher for the first time. She said, "Oh, hey, how you doing? You're Trayvon? I was getting ready to drop you from the class." Oh, yeah. You ain't gonna see me until the final either. I'm just gonna let you know now. You sure you ready for it? Yeah, it can't be hard. And the midterm I took was literally the same test I had just took for my Spanish final from Miss AB. It was maybe a couple more things on there that weren't there, but it wasn't nothing we didn't learn already. So for that, I was thankful for Miss AB for preparing us for that. And then she looked over, she like, all right. She's like, I'll see you at the final. I was like, yep. She ain't dropped me for the class because she was expecting me to come through for the final. And then that was a testament because I got my test back and I did ace my my midterm. So it was like, all right, I don't need to go to class to do the work. My midterm was more than half my grade. So it was like, all right, as long as I do the test that matter, like how I always realized in school, as long as you could pass the percentage of the test that matter, all this other work is miscellaneous if it ain't teaching you nothing. So until I was able to get into an institution that was able to break my way of thinking, I don't care. I don't care for school. And as much as I want to go back to school right now, and I know what I want to go back to school for, no school can probably teach me the way I need to learn or the way I need to be taught. And no school or there's no institution that's set up for me to obtain a degree or some piece of paper to validate what I've learned. So I'm just gonna be forever stuck with a bunch of knowledge with no degrees. But if anybody ever want to test me, we could test each other, and then iron sharpen iron.
Yeah, no, they don't want no smoke with you. I can tell them that. But what I heard you say though, Trey, is so first of all, and I was mad at you for a long time, so I asked you to give me feedback. But when I picked you up to take you to U of I, and we unloaded your stuff.
I wasn't ready. I was ready to just if Mr. Stegelman watching, Mr. Stegelman, I should have listened to you because you told me to go to IIT, and I didn't go to IIT, and I really should have went there. And it was almost like, in hindsight, it was like you knew something I didn't know. But it was like
Okay.
I needed that fresh air, man. And then the icing on the cake was Marcel had just died,
Mm-hmm.
not even a month
Oh,
before I was
yeah,
supposed to go to college. It was like,
that's
damn,
true.
this is my
That's true.
advisee, this is my brother, this is my best friend. Coming from where he came from, overcoming what he overcame, he about to go to college. I, fuck me going to college. He about to go to college. I trade everything in the world just to see that happen again. Like, man, it's like, and then for that to be taken away, it's like you took that away from me. So for me, going to
Yeah.
college was just a way to be safe. That's how I looked at it. It was a place for me to be safe and at peace. That's how I looked at it. It wasn't no place for me to really go learn. Like I say, on top of that, I was battling a ton of other stuff. And then the loss of for me to be losing my auntie to cancer during that time, it's like, all right, I don't even have the capacity to be here because I got to be at home. It's not like I didn't make attempts though. I still got documentation of me reaching out to teachers, me trying to get professional help from therapists there on campus. I got my appeal letter and all that other stuff and all the things. But it's just like I never cared enough to put it into action because it's like none of that was conducive to me getting the help I needed in the areas I needed. So it was what it was.
Trayvon, I just now, like right now, o'clock, realized, and it's so crazy because I was grieving Marcel so much that I didn't even make the connection that y'all was grieving him too. Like that's what's crazy about life. It's like we was in this together whole time. I'm trying to hold myself up and wasn't properly holding y'all up. You know what I'm saying? But I think it
And
also
not to cut you off either, but another thing that further pushed me away from learning during my freshman year, literally a week before my aunt had died to cancer, twin had died for
Yep.
for the reason he died, and it was like, man, that's a senseless stuff. You talking about a boy who ain't on nothing but books. This a cool little boy. He don't want to do nothing but just go to school, make his parents proud, and make his friends happy. He don't care about none of that street stuff, none of that. He just want to watch his brother be a hooper and all that. Like it was like Come on now.
Yeah.
How many people we got to lose to trying to succeed? It was at that point I just didn't care. If it wasn't about me getting help and me mentally getting out of a dark place, I didn't care for it.
And that's the part that I was going to touch on. So when you talk about, so Corey and other folks are wondering, like, so you got all these college acceptance, 28 on the ACT, what's your story? To me, what I'm taking away from this, and Trayvon, get me right, but for the educators who are watching, is that when we prepare academically, that's not enough to sustain them. We should have been preparing emotionally, mentally, socially. So what that means is, I heard Trayvon bring up therapy. How many times did we assess the needs of our kids? Did we know what they actually needed to be prepared? And did we provide that? Like, no, because even I failed as his advisor, because I picked him up, took him to U of I. I'm like, oh, he's going to be great, 21, 28 on the ACT, all this stuff. But he didn't even feel comfortable coming to me before he dropped out. I have to do some reflection around what that was about, right? And so we need to really think about what preparation really means and what that looks like. And it sounds like making sure that they're mentally, emotionally, and socially prepared is the key, especially in the age of Google. Why are kids sitting in 45-minute, 90-minute classes for something they could Google in 5 minutes?
I didn't pay for no book in school that I needed simply because I went to class, I saw what the author was, what the edition was, and what year it came out. And from there, I had every book I needed. Oh, some people, oh man, you have to pay for that. You can't find every book. If you do your due diligence and you learn what information you need to learn, there's nothing you can't access.
Jesus, I'm so sorry, Trae. I didn't even make the connection that y'all was mourning his death too, because I was so busy in my own space. Kadeja said she loved the staff. She didn't like how we had to be penalized for literally defending ourselves. I agree. I think that in the Black community, it shouldn't have been promoted. But what do you do when it's you or them? I think we do not get in these kids' shoes enough. Empathy. That's really what it is. And some even then and now, like a lot
Like
of
I said,
times I'm
even
off.
empathy, even sometimes empathy ain't enough.
So what is it, Trae?
And it's honestly is I mean, it's nothing you can't do past empathizing, but just nah, I don't know because me personally, I spent my entire life being there for people because I always wanted somebody to be there for me, and it
Mm,
got to the point where I used all my empathy, and now I was looking around for sympathy and pity, and it was like, nah.
yeah. No, to your point. So empathy, right? But I'm always amazed at adults who become adults and forget what it was like to be a kid. And not even forget what it was like to be a kid, but forget
Mm.
that you're a human as an adult. So it's like adults will be so mad at like kids for not turning in work on time, but it's like you ain't turning your lesson plans on time. Are you getting in trouble for that? Do you have to stay for detention for that? Like, you are an adult and you make mistakes. Why are we so? And so that if the notion is we got to prepare them as kids so that they don't make mistakes as adults, then why do we have a world full of adults who still make mistakes? That means whatever we did to prepare y'all didn't work either.
Which is
Okay,
man.
that's my rant. That's my rant. Hold on.
What's up?
Corey
I need
said,
questions.
yeah, he said
Questions.
mental and emotional preparedness matters. It absolutely does. Freshman year definitely felt like a vacation. Empathy stops in college. I don't know, Kadeja. I think it depends on the professor. I think empathy in general is a new concept that a lot of people are starting to explore. So to your point, I feel like back in the past, a lot of people didn't have it because it was no excuses, get it
Oh,
done, figure it out.
Kadeja, you just brought up a point that I forgot to bring up.
Go ahead.
As educators, I feel like teachers, academic staff, counselors, things like that, they mean well, but sometimes they kind of, like you say, they overstep the power of their authority. A lot of times, and I could be specific to my experience and the experience of my peers, a lot of times we were given broken promises or we were given something to look for and it wasn't there. It's all right if you're not able to do what you said you was going to do. And it's all right if you, in the heart of hearts, really wanted to do what you said you was going to do. But don't just leave somebody in the dark and you know that they were really looking forward to you because you were really that support. And now, because you feel ashamed and you feeling guilt because you weren't able to deliver, now I'm just going to cut ties altogether. You don't know how much spite that build up in a person. And that's a bad thing to do to somebody because nobody needs to be spiteful.
it speaks to, though, what you said, Trae, about how you got to U of I and you were in a dark place and you felt like you needed some support mentally. And I think I can only speak for me and my experiences with folk in the Black community who didn't prioritize mental health and wellness, right? So if I haven't been able to deal with my stuff, it makes it easy for me to walk off on you and not hold my promises to you and not be accountable.
And to that point, that's what also made me stay out of school, because everybody was like, "Man, why you not in school? Why you not in school? You got all what?" All right, bro. I need mental help. I don't know how many more ways I could tell you unless I tattoo it on my forehead and say, "Hey, I need mental assistance." I was just like, you study pushing school, I don't have the mental capacity to do school. I barely had the mental capacity to do school while I was here, which is why you were mad, because every day I'm coming to school high. I need to be high just so I could be in school and not get put out of school. Now I'm stuck because I wasn't planning on going to college in the first place. So if I don't even finish high school, it ain't looking too good for me. As smart as I am, it ain't looking too good for me if I don't even make it out of high school. So it's like, all right, I got to cope in school. I can't cope at home. School my break from home. Now, school ain't my break from home no more, but I don't want to go to the streets because I know how it is. I'm too smart for the streets. And I always, and that ain't no knock against nobody that get caught up in the streets or fall to the streets or nothing like that. I just always felt like I was too conscious to be in the streets. I'm too aware of what could go wrong in the streets to take those risks. Yeah, that don't mean that it ain't other risks that I'm taking, that I engage in, that ain't gonna happen or things like that. But I just pick and choose my battles. That's what you're supposed to do. But
That's it.
to man,
Yeah, no, and I what I heard you say too again. So we have these oppressive policies in schools where, and I've worked at them and upheld them as a principal and as a teacher. If a kid show up to school high, you're supposed to call the fire department. You're supposed to call the ambulance. You're supposed to get them removed from school. You're supposed to do all these different things, right? When do we ever stop to say, "Hey, why are you high? Let's talk about this. What do you need?" Right? And I'm not saying that every kid is Trayvon's story. Sometimes they might be like, everything good at home. I'm cool. I just like getting high.
some
And if
people
that's
just come high just to come high.
their response, great. But the problem where we miss the mark is we're not asking. We're not asking. We're assuming. We're not asking. We're not giving them what they need. Hence, Trayvon being with a 28-15 acceptances and no college degree, because we didn't prepare. We didn't give him what he needed to be successful. This just made a connection to me. So Corey, who's been on here and very active, Trayvon, you remember Javante from Johnson? You know
Yeah.
he died recently. Did you know that? He went to Mississippi Valley State. Javante Curtis.
Oh yeah, Kurt. Yeah, yeah. I was like, what? It's a
Yeah.
couple of them.
So he that was his like he kind of like adopted him, took him in, Corey on here. And so he just was talking about your conversation. He said thank you for sharing your story because it reminds him of conversations he had with Javante, and this is very real. So thank you for your transparency.
Hey,
um
whenever you want to have an even deeper talk, because I'm always willing to go way deeper than this, brother. We can have one. Just set the platform up, and we can talk to way more people than what we talking to now.
and his follow-up question to you, Trayvon, and I don't know if you feel like he might have put this in here before you expanded, but did you feel supported as a Black man on the campus of U of I?
Um, I did, but I didn't. Um, I mean, with any going into any new place, you kind of got to seek your support, because I mean, you knew that it's not like people just gonna immediately gravitate to you. People got to see who you are, get a feel for you, learn who you are and things like that before they just immediately come up to you. So in that respect, I had support, and then I was pretty vocal on finding out organizations and little different social groups and things like that that were doing different things on campus. So it's not like I was just idly allowing myself to be miserable and going through a dark place. I was advocating for myself. But what really broke the mold for me and eventually led me to falling off the wagon was the people who were already supporting me stopped supporting me. I wasn't
Say
getting the
more.
I wasn't getting the regular phone calls from certain teachers and advisors and stuff like that. I wasn't getting the regular texts and stuff like that. It started becoming some, hey, you doing your work. It wasn't just, hey, how you been, how things going at home and stuff like that. So once I started seeing that it was about the work, it only started confirming things I already knew. Y'all only doing what's gonna make y'all some money, and I can't be mad about that because everybody got to make a money at the end of the day. But don't fake the funk with me. I'm really going through stuff, and I'm passionate about the stuff that I'm going through. That's why I don't talk to nobody about it, because I get real hot about it. and it made me to the point, it's like, damn, I opened up to you. It's like I can't take
And
that
now you
back.
gone.
And
Yeah.
I'm exposed to you now, and now you gone. It's like, damn.
So Trayvon, here, so yes, and this is what I'm wondering though, like, so I've already owned up to the fact that I feel like we've done you guys a disservice, right? I will say for me, and I'm not speaking for everybody, and I don't want this to sound like an excuse. I just want you to know my rationale was that, like, I thought that I had done a great job of communicating to y'all that I had y'all, which to me was evident of me picking you up, taking you to school, doing, like, for me, I felt like I was there. What I'm hearing you say is that I wasn't calling enough. And this is where I made a mistake, but also felt like it was
But
what was
Miss Carew,
supposed to happen was like,
you ain't
go
even
ahead.
do nothing wrong. I can't say it was you
But
because
I'm your advisor. If you didn't make it, I have to take responsibility for that.
but it ain't your responsibility for me to be comfortable enough to open up to you. So in that respect, you can't hold yourself accountable for that. That's my place to become comfortable enough to come to you.
I appreciate that, but I also just heard you say that you weren't getting the same kind of supports that you were initially. And for me, that speaks to my earlier point of, like, in the school, we were holding y'all hands so much. And then it was like, okay, y'all college to me. I'm like, okay, this is y'all time to go be free. Do what you need to do. I'm not going to call you every week and say, hey, you got this due. It's your time to figure it out. At the time, I didn't realize that there. It was like all the supports are there. We're gonna check in, make sure you don't fail in high school. But then as soon as you go ahead and go to college, it's like, up, go ahead, fly. Like,
I
you
don't
got your wings.
I don't feel like my hand was held in high school. If anything, I felt like I was like a trophy or something.
Hmm.
I ain't gonna lie to you. That's how I felt.
No, that's good. But to me, I'm thinking like LaSalle's, like trying to force y'all to do stuff is what I say about handhold. It's
Uh,
like trying to put all these safety nets in place so that y'all couldn't just spread your wings and fly.
and for a lot of people, that only further put them off track from obtaining higher education because, again, you step outside the school system, a lot of times these kids are being forced to do stuff or being reprimanded for not doing stuff accordingly. So if that's all I'm being taught, I didn't went 16 years of my life being reprimanded because I don't know how to do something that's supposed to be simple. Well, I guess I ain't gonna be able to do nothing in life then if I can't do simple
Hmm.
stuff at 18
Yeah,
years old.
no, that's it. I feel that. I feel, oh, excuse me. I feel that fifth grade teacher said, uh, doing one-on-one dedication on Fridays, student check-ins. You want to start in elementary, allowing scholars to open up. Yes, 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 yes. Serving at Robeson, he learned that we have to become the family. Yes, absolutely. Forget that you were never okay. I don't know. Kadeja said, I just said this, Miss Carew, something about I ended my college career doing individual to learn new things instead of wasting my time learning what they said I needed to teach. Yep. Grace is needed on both spectrums. Grace is needed all around. Hey, Ronnie, thanks for joining. Please speak on it as I manage counselors. What, Corey? If we missed the question, let me know. You said please speak on it as I manage counselors. Bryce, thank you. Bryce always talking about I'm the GOAT. He gonna put a GOAT in the chat. Thank you. Honesty and transparency is needed. I needed that in education. Agreed. But to again, up as your teacher, I can't be honest and transparent with you because I don't know how to be honest and transparent with myself. So a lot of my push, what I would like to see happen as we think about restructuring teacher preparation programs is like, how do you help teachers come into their own, to have their own self-awareness so that when students are casing them and getting disrespectful with them, that they don't lose their head because they are confident in like who they are. So I'm with you. I think the gap is that teachers are still human, and until they do the work required to heal from whatever they've experienced in life, it's going to be hard for them to show up in an honest and transparent way for you. Daisy said mental health is looked down upon in our community. It is, and that's why I always speak. Anybody who's my friend on here, y'all know I'm always posting it's okay to be human. I'm always trying to show my imperfections. On my 35th birthday, I cried myself to sleep. I could have posted all the dope pictures and all the 19 gifts and stuff that I got, and instead I chose to use that as a reflection point and to share my story to let people know, like, yeah, I got all these gifts and I cry myself to sleep. Like, life is not all this like roses and let's chill and have fun. It's like people are legit going through things. And so I think the more that we share our stories, the more people feel like they're not alone. Kadeja, don't give up. It's easy to say, but when you depressed and traumatized without support, yeah, you're gonna give up. I agree. Kadeja said she loved this live. I love you too. Thanks for joining and always supporting me. Laura said we have to have these conversations in our communities. Children don't know that it's okay to even show their emotions. Yes, I have sixth graders now. My advisory, my third set of Karoo boys now. They're in sixth grade, and when the Kobe situation happened, they were devastated. And I'm just like trying to talk to them. We reading poems and we talking, and they were like, Miss Karoo, I felt some kind of way, but I haven't really processed it. And I'm like, why? I'm waiting on Trae to add himself back. I hear you. I want him back too. But he okay, here he comes. But yeah, they are in sixth grade and somehow have internalized that they can't cry. And that was with Kobe. So imagine if it's something that's really happening in their life, are they supported with being able to cry and express themselves? Mental emotional health is still seen as a taboo thing, especially in the Black community. Yes, we got to dispel that, which is why we have to speak out and share when we're struggling. Jade, loving this talk. Thank you for joining, Jade. I'm so proud of you. Sonia said, stop jumping to conclusions. Some come high school because they're stressed. I don't know what you mean by that, Corey. How did I jump to conclusions? Or I don't know what that was in regards to, but please get me right. I can't really make out what you were saying here. It says stop jumping to conclusion. Some come high. Oh, because they're stressed. Yes. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Trae, you need your headphones. You got them?
Yeah, hold on.
I just kicked him out until he come back with his headphones. Yeah, so teachers need to stop jumping to conclusions. Some come because they're high. Kadeja, because they how to cope with life. Yes. Why can't that be part of our age job? It can. A lot of stuff could be. But again, we're not asking the people that we're serving what they need and what they want. Self-advocacy, yes, it matters. Here's my question though, Corey. How do we cultivate that? Especially in zero tolerance, no excuse school environments. How do we expect students to advocate for themselves when teachers get pressed anytime they ask a question? For example, if a kid gets a demerit and a student is like, hey, why that's 1, that's 4, whatever. And the kid says, why? What did I do? That's another one, because you being disrespectful. No, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm advocating on my behalf. And so when we suppress their advocacy skills so early on, by the time that they become old enough, not even by the time they become old enough, they should be advocating their entire lives, but it becomes suppressed so early on that they just learn to fall in line and not question, not challenge, because there's going to be seen as disrespectful. So to your point, Corey, we need to get together to figure out how we can cultivate that advocacy in the spaces where their advocacy skills are like intentionally suppressed. Okay, he said, you just helped me develop some practices. We have to do this work with the intention that we really care and not just for the damn deposit. You better speak about it. I'm always down. We can have virtual lunch or whatever. Let's do it. You can't do or be there for what you don't know. Super true. Samisia, loving this vulnerability. Thanks. Trae is amazing. College prep needs to really be college prep. I think the problem with that, Kadeja, is I don't think people really know what it takes to be college prep. Until we shift this idea that college prep is a high SAT score or ACT score, we'll never be prepared. Because we've already demonstrated that the tests are hot garbage. And so if you're preparing me for that, you can forget about me being prepared for college. I think the kids like myself and, so many of you guys who are on live who weathered the system. And when I say weathered, I mean beat, bruised, harmed to get a degree or to be working towards a degree. It wasn't because you were prepared by your educational institution prior to now. That was your own resolve. That was your, teaching and learning from home. That was your support and encouragement from others. So yeah. Let's see. Speak more. SQRP. Corey, we could talk about SQRP. I'm over it. That's why I will not open up a charter school. If I have to be held and checked by SQRP, it's not worth it. It's dehumanizing for kids. So no, I'm not signing up for that. When we spoke about engagement from counselors. Oh yeah, he was talking about, but then he came back and said that he felt supported by his counselors. He just didn't know how to communicate his real needs. Let's see. Oh, okay. Trae, your phone died. Okay, so let me stop trying to add that one. But the thing is, Trae, I see you on Nanye's page, but If it's not a cell phone, it's not gonna let me bring you back on. So you got to get on the cell phone. I think you need to speak for Teach for America because this is everything I needed to hear when I did the program. Okay, so Teach for America is a whole nother thing in and of itself. We've been on this live for about an hour and a half, and I don't want folks to stay on here. We still have a lot of viewers, though. I'm going to see if Trae jumps back on or not. But TFA is a whole nother thing for me. I did do Teach for America. I will just say, in short, and feel free to send me a message. I don't know which Michelle this is because I can't see your profile picture right now. But feel free to send me a message so we can set up a longer, in-depth conversation. I think the intentions of the organization are good. I think that me and so many other dope educators, if I could toot my horn for a little bit, became teachers and, you know, made positive impact on the lives of kids that we served. I also think that there's something fundamentally wrong with the fact that we believe that teachers are going to be prepared to go into classrooms with a summer's worth of teaching and learning and training. I think there's a lot of research out there around institutional racism and how, okay, there you go, Trae. Institutional racism and how our, you know, poor Black and brown children generally get the least effective teachers. And by least effective, what they're saying are alternate routes to certification or first year teachers. I think that's something to be said for that because my ability to be a teacher in my 5th year was very different than my 1st year. And so my kids who experienced me in year 1 and year 2 didn't get the best of me. So yeah, reach out to me if you want to talk about that. Kim said, this is giving me chills. My brother has a mental illness, but is very smart. But because he wasn't given mental support, he went into a deep depression. Yeah, Kim, we gotta figure that thing out. One thing I loved about working at CPS, particularly Rosen, we allow students to give their perspectives. That's dope. That not many schools are doing that, Corey. So shout out to you. Trae, now that you're back, Corey manages, he's like a director of college counseling. So he manages college counselors. So if you could
Okay.
say anything about like, you know, words for him as he goes back to train or to talk to his, you know, college counselors, what are some things that, you know, what's some advice you would be given to current college counselors in the high schools?
Um, just be engaged with your students outside of school. Know what your students are going through, so that you know how to properly help your students continue on with the path to whatever they choose to do. Like a lot of kids, like I said, a lot of kids want to go to school. Some kids want to go to trade school. Some kids got other adventures that they want to do after college. Everybody got a different path to success. But like I say, like with me and a lot of other people, we lose the support we need on that path to help give us that extra push that we need to get over the hump. So I mean, I feel like engaging with your students outside of school is the best thing. I mean, I want to say, I don't know, because that's a tough one. There's a lot that I could say would be very beneficial, but I do think, yeah, engaging students outside of school, I would have to say would be number one on my list as far as changes to help further better students' educational adventures.
I appreciate that, Trae. It's all about relationships. I think that's why I got y'all to perform, even in spite of all of the chaos around us. It was like, because I feel like if nothing else, y'all knew I cared.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's crazy you said that because I always said if Marcel was in any other advisory, it'd have been way more of a problem than anybody else. And I know that because we had Mr. Strong first year, and so I just know no other advisor would have been able to deal with him but you.
thank you. Maybe rest in peace. So Corey is asking why are we actually college prep? And I think that's a good question because we don't have to be college prep. What I say is every child should be prepared to go, but they shouldn't be forced to go. If that's not your goal, you should not go, not because you didn't have the option or you weren't prepared, but because you chose something different. That's just my perspective.
Mm, Me personally, I think, like I said earlier in the lab, college shouldn't exist. And if it does exist, it shouldn't be just like you get promoted from 11th grade to 12th grade. Once I graduate 12th, go and push me into college. If that's how we're gonna have the system set up, that's how it should go. I shouldn't have to graduate all these years. Now I gotta pay for school. No. Or you gonna trick me and give me scholarships. Oh, so you don't have to pay for school, But once you don't meet our standards, now you got to pay for school. No, just let me keep going to school like I've been doing. And then once I finally get some academic success and I get the stuff y'all looking for, maybe then I can make y'all some dollars. But don't try to kill me before I can make the dollar.
You bring up a good point, Trey. And actually, I hadn't considered that, right? I think my whole work has been around how do we make not just K 12, but K 16, college included, how do we make the spaces more equitable? But maybe we need to just be asking, like, are the spaces even needed and to what extent, right? There are some, like when I went to Cuba, like college is free for everybody. There are spaces like, the Ladakh who like there's this, I was watching for one of my classes, like they don't have K-12 schooling at all. They really learn by being a part of the family, working in the farm, teamwork, like, and they have a great quality of life because they don't even understand the concept of going to school and making all this money around capitalism. It's like, do I love my family? Are we working hard together? Can we eat? Like, and they love life. They are considered poor, but their quality life is better than ours, right? And so I think to your point, we need to be considering that. Oh, Michelle Murray. Yes, Michelle Murray. Send me a message. I know it says Shelby Blanco. I'm like, who is that? Who else? Let's see. Top three. Bryce said, when I graduated from JCP and they found out I wasn't going directly to UIC, they basically disowned me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think they care, Bryce. To your point, you said they only want statistics. I think their
I
numbers are
You
important,
know, I,
but
I I could speak to Bryce discernment because he a 2015, so he experienced that real cold shoulder that the rest of us got. It's some truth to what he said.
and I'm not. And please forgive me if I invalidated that. How you feel is always how you feel, and like nobody can take that away. I will say too, though, I'm just saying I think we should have grace for people because I think those folks that y'all experienced that from thought that they were operating from a good place, right? And
I
that don't mean that they didn't intend, or they don't. That don't mean that they didn't harm y'all. But we all, when we were there, were doing what we thought was best, from my understanding.
can All right. This is why I lost grace for everybody in school who faked the funk. You put on the facade that you was gonna do this and be there to help this and do that, but once X, Y, and Z stopped making certain numbers, you lost all interest. That is it's that simple. It ain't no, oh yeah, well, these are no. I made that retention rate go down. So
Mm.
if we can't get you to help that retention rate go back up, we just gonna X you out of the equation altogether. And
Wow.
people could say that that ain't the case, but the engagement of communication speaks for itself.
I can't even say none of that, Trey. That's your experience. I haven't experienced life after school as a student in the system. So, like, in terms of like saying that I'm going to provide you all this help and support and not getting it. So, I'm sorry. Like, again, I'm sorry that you guys have had to experience that. And I wish that wasn't the case. I hope that, and here is the other thing. I need to say this too, depending on when people just join this line. But we're about to wrap up because we've been on here for a long time. But this is not a knock against anybody, not a specific school, not a specific organization, not charters or traditional public, not Black teachers, not white teachers, not Asian teachers. This is a general conversation about the experience of a student who is brilliant, has unlimited potential, and didn't become a success. And when I put quote unquote, like, I'm really using air quotes because our version of success didn't fit. He was too big for that. He was too large for that. And we didn't do our part. And so this is to raise awareness. If it don't fit, if the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. Please, let's not go into, and I don't need no emails and all this about Miss Carew dogging Johnson on live. This is not that. I love Johnson. It was the best part of my career. I still do consulting work for them now. As I stated, the current CEO, is doing lots of work around improving the policies and practices that are happening in the school. So they are progressing. This is not a knock against anybody. This was just to bring to light some of the inequities that's happening.
I got a lot of things that I don't like about the former Johnson because the former Johnson isn't the new Johnson. So to that respect, everybody knows that Johnson isn't the way it used to be when we were there. But also, I mean, I ain't had no options. I wasn't really when I came out of grammar school. I didn't take the selective enrollment test, not because I wasn't capable. I just didn't choose to, and I didn't fill out the paperwork. So when it came time, I wasn't able to take it. So I was left with the neighborhood schools. Didn't put forth no effort into applying to neighborhood schools. Johnson College Prep popped up at our school. Next thing I know, I'm going to what was that enrollment for Johnson College Prep? But that was that. I wouldn't trade the experience for nothing. It taught me a whole lot about myself. It taught me a lot about people. It taught me a lot about the education system. It just taught me a lot about life in general. It prepared me for a lot of things. It underprepared me for a lot of things. But that's everything in life. You just gotta learn from
Yeah, I really appreciate you, Trae. Corey is asking, where did you attend grade school?
it. I started off at CICS Longwood. Then I went to Bass for a year, and then I went to Providence Inglewood Charter School. And I attended. Actually, because I be forgetting, my sixth grade year, I went to Carl Sandburg out in Freeport, and I went to CICS Basil, and I went to Bass. Yep.
Bryce said JCP was definitely cool, and I appreciate the real people that I met there. Yeah, so with all experiences, we learn and grow. We think we're doing the best that we can during the time that we're doing it, and as hopefully we learn, we grow, we become better, we have different thoughts about things, and it doesn't make our previous experience, any less great, right? I think all of it is part of, and to your point, Trae, like, had you not gone to Johnson, you wouldn't have me. Like, we wouldn't be on this live. People wouldn't be sitting here saying, like, oh my God, this hit home for me. Like, everything is going to work together for the good of those who love him. You and I both are believers, and I believe that, the best is yet to come for you, and you don't need a college degree to see that through, right? I know that now. I didn't always preach that before,
And
but
I'm glad you just said that. You can finish what you're saying. I'm glad you just said that.
no, go ahead.
To that point you just made, and I started to say this earlier, but I got to rambling. I'm good for going off on tangents. If you are an educator, it don't matter how you are an educator. If you are dealing in the realm of educating, if you know in your heart of hearts you mean well, don't say things you know it may be hard for you to deliver on. To you, it may be a simple damn. I shouldn't have said that. I fucked up. But to that kid, that's damn. That's the last time I'm gonna let somebody give me a broken promise. That's the last time I'm gonna let somebody play me like a fool. Y'all gotta
That's
realize,
so cool.
like I said, it's deeper than school. It's deeper than numbers.
That's so good, Trae. Keep promises. And if you are an educator and you've had to take any engagement surveys as a student or a parent, most of the engagement surveys have that question. I know the 5 essentials for SQRP here in Chicago asks, does my teacher keep their promises?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's important, right? And it's because that's the kind of stuff they're gonna remember. They're not gonna remember the algebra lesson you taught.
You just another adult that don't know how to keep a promise. You sold me a dream just like everybody else.
Wow. Okay, Trae. So that was a good nugget there, but I'm gonna just give you one last opportunity. If there's any advice, as that was as an educator. I don't know if you have it for students or just in general. It don't even have to be advice. What would be
Oh
your
yeah.
closing remarks?
As a student, don't ever get frustrated with not being able to comprehend something. If you can't comprehend, it's because the way you're being told to comprehend ain't compatible with your way of learning. Find what's the best way for you to learn and learn what you want to learn. You don't gotta see schools teach stuff by grade level, and that ain't right. Just because I know fourth graders who know about AP Bio than some grown people. So it don't matter the content and the age, that shouldn't be relative. What matters is your engagement. If this is what you want to learn, I'm gonna find a way for you to learn. Don't let people tell you you can't learn stuff. Don't let people tell you you gotta have a certain number to learn stuff. Don't let people tell you you gotta do this to learn stuff. Don't let people tell you gotta have a certain work ethic to learn stuff, because you could do a shit ton of work and your work could be piss poor. A lot of people do a shit ton of work. I watch people do it on all levels, from high up to low down. So work ethic don't always mean you great. Work ethic just means you might be good at bullshit. I was good at it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had great work ethic because I was good at bullshitting my work. I could turn in a 10-page paper that I just did the night before and still get a B plus. And you sitting here wondering, well, damn, why won't he just go harder? You ain't gave me no reason to go hard.
Wow. That speaks to grading and all kind of other stuff that I'm just opposed, to. But thank you for your wisdom, Trayvon. I need to say again, I am utterly, utterly
And thank y'all. Hey,
apologetic
hit my
for my.
inbox, questions, more stories. I'm more than more. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but y'all got
Yeah.
any questions, concerns? Y'all want to know more? Anything? Advice? Y'all want to just toss knowledge off each other? I'm all about reciprocity, so we can always sharpen each other. Whatever y'all want to talk or learn, hit me up.
Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for letting me into your life. I apologize for all the harm I've done to you. I love you more than you know. Whatever goals you have, if you're rocking, I'm rolling. So thank you for this time. Thank y'all for hanging in for so long. The lives are normally an hour, but
Man,
I just saw the number
thank
saying half. So I
y'all.
was like, okay, maybe they want it. So thank you guys for joining. If you didn't catch it from the beginning, I know some people were saying they wanted to catch it from the beginning. I am going to save it to my page, so you'll be able to go back and watch from the beginning. If you guys have thoughts about what future lives should be about, so this is the last one in the series that I'm thinking about, but if you have other topics that you guys want to talk about or that you want to hear about, let me know and I'll try to find folks to come on and enjoy. I think that's it, y'all. I love y'all. There's nothing you can do about it. Be safe, be well, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.
All right, you all have a good one.
Bye, Trae.
See you, Ma.
All right.